Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Lemon Live at 5. Thanks for watching. How's your day going? My day's going a little bit better. The jet lag is wearing off because I've been doing so much traveling. So, yeah, someone said 5:08. Yeah. And we would have been at 5:00, except we were watching this. This is in Doral, Florida. And the president is giving, Donald Trump is giving an update on everything. He's talking about the war. He's talking about the state. Look, Donald Trump is a whiny little bitch. I mean, he is just like whining over everything. He was just whining moments ago about the Democrats not standing up during the State of the Union. Now, I don't understand why. That was a week ago. Does anybody care anymore? The opposition party never stands up. They wouldn't stand up, they said, for some heroes or someone. I forget who he's talking about. They never stand up for that. And maybe they're not standing up, too, because you're using them as props. And they don't want to be a part of it, which is understandable. So this is what I'm talking about. This is why I say he's whining. Let's just see. We're going to pick it up. I don't know. This is live. He's in Doral, Florida. And so just listen.
Right? They were sort of neutral, but they weren't doing it. All of a sudden, they're getting hit with missiles. And they could have gone one of two ways. They could have gone toward their side, like we're with you, or they could have gone with our side, and they really went with our side, and they've helped us, and they've been a big force. But they got hit. But they were going to be hit with us. Had we not done the B-2 raid, and if we not done this one where we said, nope, it's time to go in, we have to go in, have no choice. Number one, if we didn't go in, they would have come in after us, because I see the Democrats trying to justify it, and they're failing because the voter on the street is saying, you got to be kidding. But I see where they're going.
Okay.
They're always saying, no, there was no reason. Well, I'll give you the best reason of all.
Let me just say this.
If they were going to
the voter on the street who I talked to, and if you're looking at the polling on this war, the voter on the street doesn't want it. He's lying right there. God, this man, I don't understand how anybody can support or believe this man. If my own father lied this much, I'd be like, Dad, I don't know when to believe you, because you rarely tell the truth. You said you were going out for some milk or a pack of cigarettes, and then you didn't come home for 20 years. That's Donald Trump. All right, let's see what else. Let's go. Listen.
They wiped out almost 20%, maybe 22, 23%, but the rest are going very quickly. And the missiles have been largely knocked out. The drones have been knocked down, and we're hitting where they make the drones. We know them all, and we're knocking the hell out of that now, where they manufacture the drones. A lot of work, a lot of brilliant work, but we're going to have a much safer world as soon as it's finished, and it's going to be finished pretty quickly. With the help of our House Republican majority, we passed the largest tax cuts in American history, and we have to be talking about it. And with the great, big, beautiful bill, we delivered no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. And we did something else which is great that nobody ever talks about, Tom, and we have to talk about it. We made interest on auto loans fully deductible. That's never happened.
Okay.
We've never had that. You know, rich people always get deductions.
Okay, that's good. That's good. The price of cars up. We showed you all of this. But the thing is that people who are listening to this and they're listening to Fox News, they're going to believe all of this bullshit that he says. And that's the problem that we have in this country, especially with the media right now, especially with the time that we're in, is that people are in their silos. With siloed media, people are in their silos and they don't listen to facts in many instances. Especially, and for decades now, people have been sitting in front of the conservative media. Fox News did so well that all the other things started popping up, like Newsmax and what's the other one? OAN or something like that. News Nation. All of them started popping up, the conservative ones, because they want to draft off of this, not having to rely on facts, just to be able to give Donald Trump's sort of lunatic, far right-wing side. It's unbelievable. Anyone who is listening to this president over the last couple of days about this war knows. Anyone who has any brains, any logical person understands that Donald Trump doesn't have a rationale for this. We had to do it because Israel was going to attack and they were going to attack back. So we had to subvert that. We had to stop that from happening. That means that the imminent threat then was Israel. So you're saying that we did this because of Israel, and then they tried to take that back, and then they said, well, there was someone who was in the mullahs. They were going to go after Donald Trump, so we had to take him out. But who is it? Well, we can't tell you who that is. And then they said, oh, we're going after. They were about to have a nuclear weapon. None of the intelligence says that. No imminent threat. No imminent threat to Trump. No imminent threat to Israel. No, wasn't imminent that they were going to have a nuclear weapon. As a matter of fact, just months ago, when they did the war before that, the 12-day war, they said that they had knocked out Iran's nuclear capabilities. And then on and on and on. So we're doing that. We're going for regime change. And then he says, they say it wasn't a regime change, according to Pete Hegseth, but then the regime did change. And then Donald Trump is saying to reporters, it was because of regime change. And none of these make sense because there's no imminent threat for any of it, especially since Donald Trump said the other day, well, I guess the worst case scenario is that we put someone in there that's worse than the person that we took out. And over the weekend, just yesterday, the council voted to do what? Put in a hard line, someone who is harder lined than Ali Khamenei. And that was Ali Khamenei's son. So none of it makes sense. And that's why he has to get in front of the cameras and lie the way he lies. As a matter of fact, he just did it moments ago about the regime change in Iran, saying, we don't know who the new regime is going to be. We do. They voted on it just yesterday. It's been breaking news everywhere. Here it is. Here's the lie. Roll the lie.
But think of it. We knocked out 46, and actually it took 3.5 days. Their terrorist leaders are gone. We're counting down the minutes until they will be gone. Think of it. We had leaders, and they're gone. Then we had new leaders, and they're gone. And now nobody has any idea who the people are that are going to be the head of the country, and will not relent until the enemy is totally and decisively defeated.
Okay. So there you go for that. And then there is breaking news on top of that, on top of the war, that some people were wondering how long this is, not some people, everyone is wondering how long this is going to last, okay? This morning with John Heilemann, when we were on, we were trying to figure out, what does Donald Trump care most about? Saving face, and his poll numbers, or continuing to go on to fight this war? Like, which one does he care about the most? Not being called a taco and tacoing on the war, perhaps? Because in an interview with CBS News, this was this afternoon, President Trump said that I was right, the first one, Trump, said that the U.S. war with Iran could almost be over. And this is a quote from Wei Zhejiang. She said, I think the war is very complete, pretty much, the president said, speaking at his Doral, Florida golf club. That's where he is right now. Iran has no Navy, no communications. He was just saying that at the podium. They've got no Air Force. Their missiles are down to a scatter. Their drones are being blown up all over the place, including their manufacturing of drones. The U.S. military said it struck about 3,000 Iranian targets in the first week of these operations. And then a quote, he says, if you look, they have nothing left. There's nothing left in a military sense. Okay. So him saying also that they don't know who the new leadership is going to be. Donald Trump said on Sunday, when it was announced that Iran was putting in the Ayatollah Mujtaba Khomeini, who would replace his father as the supreme leader there. And look, he said, I have no message for him, none whatsoever, the president said, adding that he has someone else in mind to lead the country. So he's saying they don't know. They know. That's who they want to lead the country. Now, unless he's going to go and take him out, that is the person who will be leading Iran. So, I mean, it's unbelievable that we are in this place with someone who is obviously not of sound mind and not of sound body. And here we are in the middle of a war with someone who doesn't know what's going on and could end all of us. I hate to start that way with you, but hit the like and hit the thumbs up. It affects the algorithm. More people become aware of our conversation and our channel here. And let's just listen in just for a little bit. I want to hear what he's saying.
Republicans can own that issue. I'm also asking you to take swift action to codify my most favored nation policy on drug prices, the biggest. That alone should win the midterms. We have, and I tell this story all the time, my first term, third year, I actually had a slight, it was 0.25% decline in drug prices. First time in 28 years. I was so proud. I went home, told our great First Lady, who's now a movie star, I got the biggest, can you believe that? That movie was hot. And it is hot. She became a movie star.
It was tank. Oh my gosh.
It was a good movie. But I went home and I said, you know, it's amazing. We do so well. We work so hard. This issue is the single biggest issue. Okay. I had a news conference, I'm embarrassed to say, a long time ago, my first term, third year, because I went up to a level that I did things that nobody's ever done. 28 years, I brought it down 1/4%. Now I brought it down 80%, 90%, 75%, depending the way it's driving the fake news crazy because I say 400%, 500%, 600, depending on the way you want to talk about it, if you want to talk about pricing. But using a conservative number, what we've done is we paid the highest price for drugs anywhere in the world, and now we pay the lowest price for drugs anywhere in the world. We are tied for the lowest price. Whoever has the lowest price, that's what we pay. And I did that through tariffs. We had a little disappointing decision, to put it mildly, from the Supreme Court.
That
Terrible
from
decision
Supreme
for
Court,
the
not
people.
the Supreme
The good
Court.
news is
What's
I have
wrong
lots
with
of
him?
other ways of doing
Okay,
this.
so
You
look,
just have to work a little harder.
again, on a fact check for that, that is not true. Of course, you cannot take something down 700%. That means that they would be paying you to buy their drugs. I mean, I guess that's maybe, is that what he's saying? But then he also said that Melania became a movie star. That movie tanked. And there was reportedly, allegedly, that the people buying the tickets or what bought the tickets were bots to sort of drum up the numbers there. I mean, this is out of control. I needed the laugh today, but I needed the laugh in the sense that this is laughable. It's not funny. It's not funny, obviously, that 7 members of our U.S. military have lost their lives in about 9 or 10 days of this war. That certainly is not funny. What's not funny is that a school in southern Iran was blown up, 185 young people, girls, killed. That's not funny. And the fact that our oil prices, gas prices are going to go up in America and the world because of this war that no one wanted except Donald Trump or Epstein distraction, whatever it is, it's a pretty sad state. And the fact that people are concerned that that violence could come to our shores, that's a real concern. That's what people have been asking me about on the streets. So we have some great reporters who are going to discuss this, who are going to talk about it. But first, we're going to get a word in from our sponsors. We're back in 2 minutes with the best reporters in the business. This episode of The Don Lemon Show is brought to you by Graza, makers of crazy fresh olive oil. And let me just tell you something. If you cook even a little bit, you know good olive oil makes all the difference. At my place, Tim and I cook a lot. Sometimes it is a quick weeknight dinner. Sometimes we're hosting friends. Either way, I always keep Graza on the counter because it's just that good. Graza olive oil is always fresh, never blended, and made from some of the best olives in the world. And they even put the harvest date right on the bottle so you know exactly what you're getting. They've got sizzle for everyday cooking, sauteing, roasting, marinating, all of that. And then there's drizzle, which is my favorite finishing oil. It is bold, peppery, and perfect for salads, pasta, or just dipping some good bread. And they've also got frizzle. It's for high heat cooking, and that's great for grilling and frying, okay? So plus now they've got olive oil mayos and aiolis in stores, rich, creamy, and made with the same world-class olive oil. So head over to graza.co, use the code LEMON to get 20% off of your first order. Trust me, once you try it, you're going to taste the difference. Go to graza.co/LEMON lemon. That is the code, graza.co. Use the code lemon to get 20% off of your first order. Support for the Don Lemon Show comes from Shopify. Now, let me paint a picture for you. You're scrolling late at night, just relaxing, and suddenly you see that thing that you have been looking for, that you wanted for so long. Maybe it's a jacket, maybe it's a kitchen gadget, maybe it's something for your business, and you click it, right? And then you add it to your cart, and then you get to the checkout, and that's when you see that purple shop button, pay button, one tap, and everything is already filled in. Address, payment, done. You don't have to go searching for your credit card or anything. That is the Shopify difference. Shopify powers millions of businesses around the world and about 10% of all e-commerce in the United States, from huge brands to people just getting started. And here at the Don Lemon Show, we actually use Shopify ourselves for our merch store. So what I like is that Shopify makes the whole process simple. You get beautiful templates to build your store, tools that help you write product descriptions, and headlines, even features that help to improve your photos, your merch photos, okay? Plus, Shopify helps you find customers with easy email campaigns and social media marketing tools. So if you've ever thought about starting a business, this is your sign. Go to shopify.com/lemon and start your $1 per month trial today. That's shopify.com/lemon. All right, thanks to our sponsors, and we're back with Prem Tucker is here. He's a political reporter at Zeteo. We've seen him on the Don Lemon show before. He's a friend of the show. And Julian Andreoni is the Capitol Hill correspondent for Drop Site News. Welcome to the program, both of you. So good to see you. Okay, here's the deal. The president is speaking at Doral. He's been reeling off a lot of things. I've been trying to fact check it in real time. It's really tough. So we just dip in and we do it. But here's the thing. He said that there's support for the war. Most people on the streets and most Americans support this war. Now, I've seen the polling. That's not the polling that I've seen. People don't know. And then he also said that we don't know who's going to be taking over the country, going to be taking over Iran. But then, of course, Khamenei's son was installed last night by the council. So what gives here, Prem?
I mean, the polling thing is obviously, as you note, cope. I think if it was something that was so popular, him and his administration and his allies could easily defend and define what they're doing. But because they have not even agreed on a definition of what they're doing, and they really have no coherent defense of what they're doing, there's no semblance that it's popular, because what is popular? So that's, I guess, where I would start. I'm curious, Julian, what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Don, thanks for having me. But I think that
Absolutely.
thank you. I think when you go into a war without any self-defined motives, and when your foreign policy is being dictated by a foreign government in Israel, you aren't really going to have any idea, and you're going to have to just lie. Luckily, he's good at that. I think from being up on Capitol Hill and talking with a number of members, they're just as confused as him. I think they espouse a number of the same incoherent sort of motives and reasons, but what it boils down to is a root question, which is, are we in Iran for regime change to usher in a more stable and democratized government for the Iranian people, to liberate them, as Lindsey Graham has been saying on social media and on Fox News, or are we there to deliberately destabilize the region to create a global hegemon in the Israeli government? I think it's the latter. Even President Trump said himself that the decision to end the war will be a mutual one that he'll make with Benjamin Netanyahu. Why on earth is the Israeli prime minister having any say over U.S. foreign policy, or when we pull our young American men and women out of the region? It doesn't make any sense to me. So I think that's the reason why he has to create up so many lies about the polling and why we're in the war in the first place. It's because he's not the one who made the decision to send American troops there or send American aircraft carriers and battleships and troops there in the first place.
Yeah, look, I would hate it when I was in corporate news and they would just play Donald Trump and without fact checking, and just the cameras just trained on him and just spouting lies out into the ethos. But here's the thing, I've got to talk about that. On Steve Bannon's show, they talked about the polling on this war, the sentiment on this war, overwhelmingly negative. Here it is.
Yes, Iran is an adversary of the United States, but it was not an imminent threat at all. It wasn't an imminent threat in January of 2025. This is not something that President Trump needed to handle for the interest of the United States. It's an Israeli objective. And why it is an Israeli objective? Because Israel wants to expand in the Middle East. Fine, that's their prerogative, but they shouldn't ask the American taxpayer or Republicans to support it.
And that is causing some consternation among MAGA. There is a war going on inside of MAGA, Prim, over the war, a war over the war, because even they don't believe in it.
What's interesting is that there is a big rift amongst sort of MAGA creators, MAGA online influencers. It's unclear the extent to which that extends to the voting base. And of course, you know, what MAGA is means different things to different people. I think in terms of the MAGA philosophy, yeah, you could readily imagine how this is a direct contravention to what MAGA philosophy stands for in the definition of some of its thinkers. But when you look at the polling, for instance, it seems over and over again, I mean, Quinnipiac just came out with new polling that shows this continuing trend of at least 50 to 60% of people being against these overtures into war generally, being massively opposed to troops on the ground in Iran. The Republican split is what we're talking about here, which is on most of these questions, it's about 70-ish% of Republicans, 60 to 70, who are in favor of Trump's policies generally. And that includes, or his most dramatic policies, including his war on Iran. There's 15 to 20% that seem opposed to it, but there isn't necessarily a coherent distinction between which of those is more moderate or disenchanted Republicans who are off-put by some of this, because of constitutionality, process, procedure, versus how much of that 15 to 20% are sort of the MAGA base that is opposed to it. And so I think the MAGA war is very important because I think that is two big forces within the Trump circle. But narrowing out what the MAGA base is between the philosophy of MAGA versus MAGA as a form of Trumpism, I think that's a different question. Because sometimes MAGA is just a proxy for Donald Trump, and MAGA post Donald Trump, we don't even know what that will mean, because that's a jump ball when he leaves. Who's going to inherit that? Because it's unclear whether that's about Trump or about the philosophy.
Interesting take on that. Let's see what Mark Caputo's take is. He's a veteran political reporter and White House reporter for Axios. Mark, good evening to you. Thank you. I'm not sure if you were able to listen to what we were talking about. Donald Trump is at Doral, lying about the poll numbers for the war and saying he doesn't know who's going to take over in Iran. And as far as I know, the breaking news yesterday was that it was going to be the Ayatollah Khamenei's son, and that the polling was in the shitter as it relates to this war. So,
oh yeah, polling's terrible. I mean, I still hold firm to the idea that MAGA is a brand for Trump. So, you know, Make America Great Again is to Donald Trump as Just Do It is to Nike. The red hat is to Trump as the swoosh is to Nike. So as far as like a lot of cohesive, coherent ideas, there's not a lot in that. What trumps them, pun intended, is that Trump is doing it. He's the commander in chief. He's the leader. So with Republicans, except for the elite base you guys are talking about, or the elites, the influencers, the podcasters, you're not going to see a real deterioration, or you haven't seen it yet. You will see it, though, if the price of gas continues to increase. Then it becomes real. Then it becomes, why are we blowing this stuff up overseas? Why do we have to find $50 billion new dollars to fund on missiles and ordnance when we're not doing it for our own people? You know, the kind of common America First questions and statements you hear made by especially conservatives who oppose the idea of foreign aid and in some cases foreign wars of choice. I just don't see that real MAGA civil war happening beyond the elite level. That's not to say it doesn't spread, but that's sort of where it's contained for the moment. But overall, polling is terrible, and it's not going to get any better for a little while as long as the fuel prices are doing what they're doing and the images that we're seeing remain on social media, and specifically like burning oil and flames and smoke. Trump himself, or the Trump White House, had expressed a measure of discomfort to Israel for its raids.
Bombing the Iranian, yeah.
Correct, because Donald Trump is an imperialist. the United States and certainly the Republican Party has been accused of being a colonial and imperialist power for a while. Donald Trump has sort of not really cared about that criticism and has been rather imperial in the way in which he's executed his foreign policy. And one of the things he's always said, going back to the I'm getting an echo. Sorry, going back to the Iraq War, he believes that we should get some of their oil if we go in, and so he's looking at oil going up in flames and thinking, that should be our oil or oil for the market. And what people are seeing is this stuff that's been lit on fire, and now their fuel prices are higher, and that's bad. And so that's sort of the tension that exists currently within Trump's own mind, to the degree that it is, or within the Trump White House, about the execution of the war. Sort of the first disagreement we've seen with the way in which the Israelis have prosecuted it.
Sorry, Mark, about that. My earpiece went out, so you're going to get an echo, guys.
I started to hallucinate a little. I heard myself it was like tripping,
I'll fix it in a
Not that I've
second.
ever done that, by the way. Just don't do drugs, kids.
Yeah. You were talking about them hitting the Iranian oil supply, but he's over here now saying, hey, look, it's fun to sink ships. Watch.
The Navy is gone. It's all lying at the bottom of the ocean. 46 ships. Can you believe it? In fact, I got a little upset with our people. I said, what quality of ship? Excellent, sir. Top of the line. I said, why did we just capture the ship? We could have used it. Why did we sink them? He said, it's more fun to sink them. I said, they like sinking them better. They say it's safer to sink them. I guess it's probably true. But
Julian, in the meantime, 7 service members have died, and as the rationale for the war is not there, and the American sentiment is not with them.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mark got at something interesting there, which is if you were actually trying to rebuild an Iranian society and infrastructure, why would you bomb more, or why would you strike more than a dozen hospitals, 24 police stations, all of their oil refineries? You're taking out their infrastructure, and you're taking out their economy. And so I think you're right that the American administration pushed back, and all of the administration's allies pushed back, because they said, oh wait, no, that's the reason we want to be in Iran in the first place. But Israel doesn't want Iran for that reason. Israel wants to destabilize Iran and take out the state writ large so that they can be a regional hegemon. And so you're seeing the Israeli interest in the war prevailing over the American interest in the war, which were slim to begin with. That's a huge issue for us, because who has the leverage here? Is it us, the biggest and most powerful country in the world, or is it the smaller state that's the size of New Jersey in the Middle East who seems to control our politics?
Well, that was a thing from the beginning, where people were wondering if we're fighting Israel's war, and it's still wondering that. Marco Rubio said it, but Prem, we discussed that earlier when the war first started, when you were on this program, and now it appears if they're so concerned about what Israel is doing, and Israel's doing it, they don't care, then perhaps we are fighting Bibi Netanyahu's war against Iran that he has been wanting to do for 30 or 40 years now.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's important to underscore is that, especially in recent days, we've seen so many sort of competing narratives of, is Netanyahu dragging Trump into it? Is Trump happily going along with it because this is what he wants anyways? Is Lindsey Graham playing both Trump and Netanyahu off each other, and really this is Lindsey Graham's, ultimate dream prize here? I think all those things can be true, because I think, as we discussed before, is that those goals are not in contradiction with one another, and sometimes the narratives that we see deployed or the narratives that we see leaked to the press are strategic to appease certain factions or to massage things away. I think that's particularly true with Trump, for whom, on one hand, he doesn't really know that much, and as a corollary, sometimes he doesn't need to, because once he's throwing so many things at the wall, as long as some of the justifications accomplish what he wants to accomplish, which is, expanding America's influence in the Middle East, whether it be by the U.S.'s own accord and control or by virtue of Israel, either way, that's a happy outcome for him, especially when half his family is either invested in war making or in the Israeli government's expansion itself. And so I find that what we know to be clear is that whether it's Israel pulling the U.S. in, or the U.S. pulling Israel in, or both of them working in tandem, the outcomes are the same, which is that the U.S. is funding and has funded Israel's increasing, escalating violence in the Middle East that has made the Middle East as unsafe as it has been for so long, no less for the victims of Israel's unaccountable violence. The U.S. has unconditionally funded that. And the U.S. stands to benefit from that regardless, even when it seems like Israel pushes the Biden administration or the Trump administration beyond what it purports to be its tolerated levels of violence. So, for instance, this just 2 days ago, we saw the familiar reporting we've seen from the past 2.5 years of Donald Trump is frustrated with Israel's, intense bombing in Iran. It's like, well, if the U.S. is so frustrated, as Julian has said, this is the most powerful country in perhaps in the history of the planet, they could do something about their frustration. And that has been the case with the past 2.5 years with regards to Israel's genocide of Palestine. So I think that's one thing that's important to note, that whether it's the push or pull, the outcomes are the same.
I was just laughing because I saw a comment from one of the viewers watching and it said Trump unmute and is still lying. Even him, I can tell he's lying even on mute. I want to report this to you in the order is as received, or the order that it came in. And first, let's play. This is Pete Hegseth on CBS. Now, take notice of what he's saying about this war. Here it is.
What was the Iranian Navy is largely no more. There'll be more boats to be sunk, for sure. So their ability to project any power in that area in a naval sense is diminishing and will be increasingly diminished. Again, what I want your viewers to understand is this is only just the beginning.
Mm-hmm. And then we have, let's see, Weijia Zhang reporting this, and Weijia said in a phone interview, President Trump told me that that the war could be over. Sorry, I'm trying to make this bigger because my eyes aren't what they used to be. Told me that the war could be over soon. I think the war is very complete, very much. They have no Navy, no communications. They've got no Air Force. He added that the U.S. is very far ahead of its initial 4 to 5 week estimated time frame. And then there is a tweet from someone else, let's put this up, who is saying this is not going to happen. There's a tweet from the person who is Andy, do we have it? There it is.
Julia.
Who talks about, that's from Julia
Yaffe from Puck.
Again. Yeah, from Puck. Weijia's an amazing reporter, but we all understand that Trump called her this afternoon so that she would report that vague but promising comments in the afternoon so that markets would rally and erase the day's drop, right? I love Julia Yaffe.
I don't know.
I don't know. But then there's a Donald Trump. This is Donald Trump just moments ago. Let me just play this and you can respond.
The Navy is gone. It's all lying at the bottom of the ocean. 46 ships. Can you believe it? In fact, I got a little upset with our people. I said, what
Wrong
quality
clip,
of ship? They were separate. But everybody said the same thing. Make sure you win. We will. We've already won in many ways, but we haven't won enough. We go forward more determined than ever to achieve ultimate victory that will end.
He's going to do double wins.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
What do you want to say? You don't think it's make the markets rally?
I think this is the problem with covering and divining Donald Trump, is he basically says whatever comes into his head. There is some strategy. There is some tactics. And for instance, we reported that Donald Trump had some heartburn over the smoking oil. But that's just because Donald Trump just says what's in his head at the time, what he thinks. Donald Trump wants to eat cake and lose weight, right? I mean, don't we all? And, he wants the war to be over yesterday. And while he has certainly, in a conventional sense, totally obliterated any sort of sense of message discipline concerning the reason for prosecuting the war, his White House time and again, and understandably so, will steer reporters back to what he said on February 28th, which is when he launched the war. And he lays out, if you listen to it carefully, if you read it, 4 specific objectives for the U.S. military to do, and then 1 objective for the Iranians to accomplish. And his 4 objectives are destroy the Navy of Iran, destroy their missile program, destroy their nuclear program and ambitions, destroy their terrorist proxy funding networks. And then he says, and then we want the Iranians to rise up and do their thing. So you are going to hear him return time and again, the way he did with Weijia, the way he is here talking about the Navy, the way Hegseth is as well, to those issues. So he said initially 4 some weeks. I think if you're a betting person, I think it's a relatively safe bet to think that in, let's see, it's March 9th, that by April Fool's Day, not intended, that Donald Trump is going to start declaring, without saying mission accomplished, we got the stuff, these 4 things we got done. The problem he has is he doesn't clearly articulate the things that he articulated before. And he just runs roughshod all over it, takes reporters' calls, goes off script, creates all of this sort of noise, and it's tough to find the signal. But I'm being steered by this White House time and again to that signal. And so I think that might apply. Again, I'm not saying this is great and clear, but it's, those things.
Specifically, give us a signal again. You're being steered by?
The White House. When there was a question last week, Matt Walsh, and I think we talked about it here, I can't remember, the conservative commentator had talked about like what the fuck is this messaging, right? Like what's going on? Kind of asking the question all these people were saying. And as memory serves, I should be better prepared here and I can show it to you. Caroline Leavitt came in over the top on Twitter. It's like, no, we've been very clear. They haven't, because the president hasn't. And, when I have called, my colleagues have called the White House, like, okay, what is the objective here? And they say, well, look back at this February 28th speech. There are these things that he lays out. Again, not saying he hasn't muddled the message. He clearly has, but I totally see a return to that. And so when he's talking to Wei Zhejiang and he's saying what he's saying, that starts to circle back to, his original casus belli for launching the attacks in the first place.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that, because this is Tucker Carlson, because we talked about the war, over the war in MAGA, and you just brought that up. This is Tucker Carlson. And again, this is a MAGA faithful, pretty much, and obviously very conservative. Here it is.
This is Israel's war. That's what it is. It's not an attack. It's not an attack on Israel, by the way. It's hardly anti-Semitism or Jew hatred. It's a fact. Head of state came to our country. The head of a state of 9 million people came to a country of 350 million people and demanded that we help them, or in effect, do it ourselves, topple the regime in Tehran. Now, how did they get the leverage to do this? That's a complicated question. And it's something really worth thinking about. But how did this tiny country with no resources and 9 million people convince the world's great superpower with the greatest military in history to do its bidding in a way that was going to hurt it?
And well, here is Marjorie Taylor Greene.
He already said to the New York Post today that he doesn't care about the polling. He doesn't care about what the American people think, and he may put troops on the ground. He took this is going to be a few-day war, to now it's going to be maybe 4 weeks or more. I want to say, what is happening to the man that I supported, you supported, the man that denounced what happened in Iraq, the man that said no more foreign wars, no more regime change, promised it on the campaign. J.D. Vance promised it. Tulsi Gabbard promised it. All of them promised it. And we're a year in, and we're in another fucking war, and we've got American troops being killed. I think it's time for America to rip the Band-Aid off, and we need to have a serious conversation about what the fuck is happening to this country and who in the hell are these decisions being made for, and who is making these decisions.
And Tim Dillon.
I don't give a fuck about Iran either. Sorry. Throw them out if you don't like them. It has nothing to do with me. And the fact that the idea that I have to give a flying fuck, you should be standing with Iran. Shut the fuck up. Will you shut the fuck up? If they want to throw the bums who run Iran out, throw them the fuck out. But the idea that the United States of America, when people can't afford houses and they can't afford health care, spends all its fucking time talking about the Middle East and fucking Arabs and Jews and religion and the fucking temple and slaughtering a heifer and Iran and Sunnis and Shiites. Get what the fuck is going on? Truly. What the fuck is going on? That we're told, well, is Iran Sunni or Shia? What is happening? Okay? Our own country is being destroyed, and it's going down the toilet.
That is a good question. Woo! What the fuck is going on? That was a lot of F-bombs flying around. I don't think
Well,
I've
that's what
ever
happens
heard
for Trump.
MTG.
Like Trump decided to mainstream podcasters.
Those are the three
in the campaign. So like it turns out now these guys are political commentators, and there were guys like Tim Dillon are heterodox, to say the least. They are like your true swing voters, and swing voters swing, and now they're swinging bats at him. You know,
what does it tell you about the Democrats that those are probably the three most effective communicators against Trump's war, the most clear and lucid communicators against the war?
What does that tell you? What does that tell you?
To me, it tells me that the Democrats are captured by the same special interests that the Trump administration is. I mean, 505 out of 538 members of Congress have accepted a pro-Israel lobbying check or campaign contribution. That's 94%. I mean, if it was 33%, you'd say, whoa, that's a pretty big swath. 66, you're starting to say, oh, that could be captured. 94, you're all the way off the deep end. And I think, look, congressional Republicans told Politico that in briefings, they've been hearing that this war is costing $2 billion a day. And I think that Republican voters and some of the more, intellectually honest Republican commentators, like the three that we just heard from there, are starting to grow wiser to the fact that all those times that the Republicans told us that we couldn't afford universal health care, we couldn't afford a higher federal minimum wage, we couldn't afford the Green New Deal, why haven't we been having any conversations about the national debt or deficit when it comes to this war, which is costing us $2 billion a day? The Congressional Budget Office told us that Medicare for All would save us $650 billion a year. This is costing us $2 billion a day, and the rhetoric is entirely different. I think what you're seeing from Trump is that nothing's actually changed with him on policy. He's just gotten older and he's lost discipline in his rhetoric. And so what Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying there is, what happened to the man that I supported? What happened is that he lost discipline. He lost control over his rhetoric. He's not as good of a showman. And now we're seeing what he's always thought, which is the same type of thought circles that go around in the elitist environment that he grew up in Manhattan.
Look, I think James Carville is right. And Mark, we'll talk about this, but it's the economy, stupid. And if we mention... Yeah, we look at the oil fields and the oil reserves and the refineries that apparently Israel hit and the Trump administration is pissed about. And I think they said the exact quote was WTF, right? I think that let's talk about the economy, because the economy is gonna go in the shitter. If gas prices continue to go up, you remember, I don't know if you guys remember this. I'm old enough to remember that Bill Clinton was obsessed with gas prices. He looked at gas prices as a barometer of his presidency, of how well he was doing. If gas prices were low, he's like, I'm good, I got it. If gas prices were high, he became a little bit nervous. Yeah, go on. But
no, Trump said it in the State of the Union speech, right? I mean, Donald Trump, 4 days before launching the war, made sure to emphasize that gas prices are stable. For me, it was just kind of interesting on Saturday when I drove over to, I live in Miami, and I drove over to Trump Doral for the summit of the
Now you're
American
just bragging that we're in the cold and that you're in the
Right.
warm sunshine. But in August, you're going to want to be us here on the coast. I'm sorry. I'm just
well,
joking
that's
with
true.
you
Well,
guys.
it depends. If there's hurricanes, yeah, but otherwise I can handle it. But I was driving over to Doral. I had to fill up my gas tank. And there was a Cuban man, and I literally heard someone screaming like "Carajo de pinga," and like the dick, which is a Cuban phrase for like this sucks. And he was complaining and loudly yelling in Spanish, saying "gasolina," and like it was literally kind of a reminder on my way to this Trump event that regular, hardworking, blue collar guys, in this blue collar section of Miami, we're really starting to feel the pinch. And our economy runs on oil still. And when that stuff goes up, everything goes up. Inflation doesn't go down. Just a week and a half ago, we saw the economy lost 90-some thousand jobs. Unemployment ticked up to 4.4%. Now you have gasoline rising. The administration had predicted last year that we're going to start to see a Trump boom in the second quarter at some point around tax season, when tax refund money was going to come in. That conversation is quiet. So a lot of people are looking around in the Republican Party, not the Trump White House or in the Trump operation, because they have message discipline internally. And they're asking, where's the win?
Yeah. Look, I want to talk about the economy. I want to get more in depth because that's really going to be problematic for Americans. But I just want to share just two more. I want to make sure we exhaust this subject because, as Mark pointed out, Donald Trump elevated podcasters and streamers, or as we call them, part of the I was going to say the bro zone, the manosphere, part of the manosphere. Yeah, one of those people is, let's see, who do we go to first? I'm not sure if you want to qualify. Is Nick Fuentes qualify as a manosphere? I'm not sure. Anyway.
Yeah, he's the groiper. He's the groiper in chief.
Yeah, he's the groiper.
This has to be the breaking point. This is the breaking point for the GOP coalition. You buried the Epstein files. There is no border wall. You didn't deliver on mass deportations. You cut corporate tax rates for the rich by cutting Medicaid again. No infrastructure bill, no middle class tax cuts. You got to refund the tariffs. And now we're in a regime change war with Iran. That's the breaking point. I'm out. I'm done. I am off the Trump train. I am not voting in 26. If Rubio or Vance are on the ticket in any form in 28, I'm voting for a Democrat. Say whatever you want. Do your worst. Hey, carpe donkdom.
You're muted, Don.
Oh, Don's gone full boomer. He's muted.
I said, no. I had to blow my nose. So did he say carpe dump Don? Is that what he said?
Donked him. That was, I can't remember. That's an obscure like MAGA Twitter thing from a few years ago, and I can't remember.
I like carpe dump Don. I think it's better to come up with this. One more, Matt Walsh.
Now, however much trust you may have in Donald Trump and his administration, this is the reality he must contend with. It's perfectly reasonable for Americans to be skeptical of regime change wars in the Middle East. We can hear all day long, this is totally different from Iraq. It's totally different. Okay. I mean, that's, so you claim. But Trump himself was skeptical of regime change wars in the Middle East. And the idea that we're obligated to just assume it's a good move because Trump decided to do it is asinine, not to mention un-American. And that's especially true since at the moment, powerful voices in the conservative movement are calling for a long war in Iran, which is explicitly contrary to what most of Trump's voters want.
Yeah, Trump
said I forgot about the fishing guy. What did you say, Mark?
I would be surprised if he wound up doing a long war. I can't see us getting pulled back in periodically back and forth. But as I said, if I'm a betting man, I'm thinking in April. By April.
But did you read the reports? You're very well sourced, but did you read the reports that on the inside that some are saying that this could be September?
Yeah, sure. I guess it depends on how you define it. I'm not sure those are accurately cast or to the degree to which those carry weight. Let's remember this. This Trump White House is just different. It is just like MAGA revolves around one man and is sort of this cult of personality. So the administration is. And what Donald Trump says at the moment matters. The Cuban phrase, lo que salga de los cojones, which means whatever comes out of his balls. And it's a term that's used to describe strong men. And that applies certainly to Trump and the administration. When he decides it's time, it's time. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we're not going to get sucked back in, but I think in April or so you're going to start to see some sort of change. Could be wrong. I probably shouldn't be predicting those things, but just knowing Trump and the way he's talking and how he's looking now, and seeing how gas prices are doing what they're doing, it's a safer assumption. There's also just the matter of the United States missile stocks. It matters. Yeah. The United States is expending a lot of money, a lot of treasure, and a lot of weaponry that they want to keep.
And you think by April, we'll see a change in tone for Trump and perhaps a pullback, a tacoing of the war?
I believe so. I believe it'll be sort of consistent with what they say are those sort of four things. And
it'll be, we won, we knocked out this. It is a total victory. There's no need for us to be there anymore.
Yeah, just like we obliterated the nuclear program last year. And
we should encourage him to do that. We should encourage him to declare victory. Look, the strikes, now we know that from video analysis that the strikes that were carried out on the Iranian girls' school that killed 175, 180 civilians, most of them between the ages of 7 and 12, was a Tomahawk missile. Neither the IRGC or the IDF had that weapon. So we know it was an American strike. Yeah, it was us. We killed those girls, our taxpayer dollars. Those missiles cost $2.2 million. So $2.2 million of your taxpayer dollars just vaporized 7 to 12-year-old girls at a school during the school day. I think we should encourage him to say, Mr. President, good job on your victory. Great job on your victory. Wave the white flag, Iranians. It's over now.
See, I don't think that'll work though, Julian. The way that to get that to work is say, Donald Trump is a coward. He would never end this war soon because
could be that too. Yeah.
and that might get him to do it. I want to play this, and then because this is what I've seen. I want to talk about the economy, and this is what I saw. I saw a bunch of this since the war happened, and this is someone who is a Trump supporter at the gas station. Watch.
How the fuck can we take America back when these cocksuckers don't even fucking support us? Fuck these motherfuckers.
Support comes from MSI United States, and I want to talk about something serious just for a moment, okay? Around the world, 257 million women still don't have access to contraception. Not because they don't want it, but because it simply isn't available where they live. There may not be a pharmacy in their village. If there is, they may not be able to even afford it. Well, sometimes women walk hours to a clinic only to find out that they've run out of supplies. And when access to contraception disappears, the consequences are predictable. Unplanned pregnancies, unsafe abortions, women dying from causes that are completely preventable. And that's why organizations like MSI Reproductive Choices matter so much. They operate in 36 countries, running health centers and sending midwives into communities where there are no doctors or pharmacies. They deliver contraception and reproductive health care directly to women who otherwise would not have any. If you want to help, you can. Text LEMON to 511-511 or visit msiunitedstates.org. A gift of just $39 provides contraception for 6 women for an entire year. So text LEMON to 511-511 or go to msiunitedstates.org to learn more. Support for the Don Lemon Show comes from Bio-Optimizers. Now, let me tell you about something that I've started adding to my nighttime routine. It's called Magnesium Breakthrough. Now, you've probably heard people talking about magnesium before, but here's the thing. Most magnesium supplements only use 1 or 2 forms, and a lot of it just passes right through your body without doing much. Magnesium Breakthrough is different. It combines 7 different forms of magnesium along with cofactors that help your body actually absorb and use it. People talk about deeper sleep, feeling calmer, better workout recovery, even better digestion. And you know me, I don't recommend something unless I'm willing to try it myself. So I'm starting Magnesium Breakthrough, and I've been doing it. And I'm inviting you to try it with me. Pay attention to how you sleep. Notice how you feel when you wake up in the morning and see if you feel more rested and more balanced. And here's the best part. Bio-Optimizers offers a full 365-day money-back guarantee. That's a full year. No questions asked. So if you want to try it, go to biooptimizers.com/Don Lemon. That's biooptimizers.com/Don Lemon and use the code DON15 to get 15% off of your first order. Make this the year you finally start sleeping better. Thanks to our sponsors.
How the fuck can we take America back when these cocksuckers don't even fucking support us? Fuck these motherfuckers.
Wow, and there we go. Back with Mark Caputo, Prem
Boy,
Tucker, and Julian.
that boy got an accent, doesn't he? Sounds like
He
Dukes of
got an
Hazzard
accent. I
thing,
mean, you know, I'm from Louisiana, so I'm used to accent, but that is even a heavy accent for me.
Oh
He's
yeah,
not
man, that's
Tucker.
thick as woods, you know.
Yeah, but that's the sentiment that we're hearing that same sentiment, except they're using a lot more F-bombs from the MAGA faithful who have platforms, and the average folks. If you're raising those gas prices, that is going to hit home. Trust me. And so I agree with you, Mark. I think his tune is going to change once, because, you know, it takes a while to percolate, right? It takes a while to sort of trickle up, if you want, to the White House, and it takes a while to trickle down from the White House to the folks. And so you and I and others, Julian and Prem, may be talking about it and feeling it and seeing it, but they don't know. They're kind of in a bubble. So I don't think this is going to be great, because I think, what's the tweet? We had a tweet this morning, guys, as we were talking about it. Put it up. I think we had the gas prices when Donald Trump took office. It was from, what's his name over at the New York Times? Peter Baker, over at the New York Times. They were like $2 or whatever during the State of the Union. And then now, guess what? Not so low anymore. That's problematic. Prem?
I think what's been interesting for this administration that in some ways Nick Fuentes was getting at is the sense that ever since the administration took office, they benefited for a moment from what the Republican Party has always benefited from, which is the idea that they always have at least one crutch issue that either by virtue of socio-political dynamics or by virtue of the media's failings, there's always one issue that they can just, for no better reason other than vibes, say is their issue. So often that's immigration or border security. In an amorphous way, that's a Republican issue. Or if not that, the economy. And the problem with the fact that the Trump administration cannot explain in any clear way why they're doing this war is that all the noise would be fine if they had at least one or two things they could rely on, which has been the case before. I mean, they got reelected again, for darn's sake, even though Trump has always been a very noisy, messy person. When the Epstein files don't get released, that was supposed to be a crutch issue. That's not happening in any like clear, transparent way. You know, we're getting it now, but there is a cover up every other day practically with the files that keep rescinding. With immigration, your signature issue, you make it so polarizing such that the one thing you could always rely on is immediately obliterated because your administration is murdering people in broad daylight, which then awakens people to the other horrors of ICE in this country. Over and over again, each of their crutches, each of the legs on their chairs keep plopping off. And finally, their final one that for so long, for often no good reason, given how many times the Democratic administration usually has to come in after a Republican administration and clean up the economy. Nevertheless, they've been able to rely on the economy as a crutch issue in the past. But with everything else being a mess and the economy patently being the final leg on the chair, there's nothing to rely on. And I know, Don, you said that, you know, it takes some time for the administration to catch up, especially in the information environment we're in now, which is just such a bubble, considering half the administration members live on Twitter. It's kind of significant. Like, surely, given we are people on the outside of it, whatever, we're still enmeshed in the bubble of politics, and we are looking around enough to know that this is a disaster, that this is the last leg they could rely on. And to me, it actually is kind of shocking that it's still taking this long to pull back and relent in some way. I feel that framing it that way almost gives them too much credit in a way, because it seems so patently foolish, given they have no other leg to stand on, that they're still gunning for this war that no one wants anyways on the substance, and no one will appreciate even in their own personal interests of their pocketbooks.
Well, look, I said this morning, I had John Heilemann on, and I said, what do you do after war? War is like the final thing. I mean,
right.
I mean, we don't know what happened. I mean, after war, then, you know, there's no more war ever because the whole thing is over, but let's hope he doesn't go there. But what I'm saying is, if you're trying to improve poll numbers, if you're trying to distract people from, as you mentioned, Prem, what happened on the ground in Minnesota, and from, you know, violating people's due process rights and beating people up, and it's all on tape. If you're distracting from, as I said, bad poll numbers, or from Epstein, or whatever it is that may be out there, and you go to war with a country, what else do you do? I mean, now, do we go to war with Russia? Is there another war? Like, there are very few places, if any, to go after this, and one is like total annihilation. I don't want to put that out there, but what do you do? I don't think he has any other places to go to distract people.
To that point, it should be noted that in the past with Iraq and Afghanistan, in the immediate aftermath of when the U.S. sought to take military action, at the time, the approval for those actions was quite high across the board. In this moment, it is dramatically low, and this is perhaps the highest the approval for such a thing will ever be. And so, you know, you just start to get scared of, like, if this is their, you know, Hail Mary, and that's obviously not going to work for anyone. I mean, other than maybe their own cynical interests, personally, like for their own economic interests. what else is there? There's one final point I want to just make sure I mention when we're talking about, the Fuenteses, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, the Tucker Carlsons, and namely their viewers as they sort of react to this. The clip from Nick Fuentes sticks to me, where he says, "We didn't get the Epstein files, we didn't get border security, we're bomb in the Middle East, all these things." And I guess one thing I would just offer to some of those viewers of theirs, because I know they have huge audiences, is that if those people that you look up to are starting to question the people who have sold these promises to you, you should maybe also question the premises of those sellers, which is to say, the idea that border security is this urgent thing that you have to care about because they said so, as opposed to the idea that perhaps these people are pinning immigrants against you. And that is actually part of the ideological project they are carrying out with regards to currying favor with corporations and so forth. That maybe this can be an entrance point for you to not only question Donald Trump, but question the people and the premises that led you to believe that he was credible in the first place.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you, who actually is running this administration? Is Donald Trump running it or someone else? Play this. This is what he said.
The situation was very quickly approaching the point of no return, and the United States found it intolerable, in my opinion, based on what Steve and Jared and Pete and others were telling me, Marco, so involved, that I thought that they were going to attack us. I thought they would, if we didn't do this at the time we did it, I think they had in mind to attack us. And
notably, Steve and Jared and Marco doesn't say JD, does he? Right?
No.
Doesn't say Tulsi, does he?
No.
But Steve Witkoff, Jared
Kushner, who's this?
Jared Moskowitz. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Jared Kushner.
I think it's South Florida. Yeah, Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff, Marco Rubio, JD Vance, Tulsi Gabbard, John Ratcliffe, Dan Kane, Susie Wiles. And at the top of it, Donald Trump. That's who's running this government, and they're making almost all of the big decisions. Now, when it comes to economic issues, you might subtract Jared and Steve and add Bessent, maybe Lutnick on occasion. But by and large, there's this real core group for Trump. I'm sorry if I steal Barack Ravid, my colleague's idea for a story we were going to do, but he said Trump sort of reminds me of a sultan. And just as a sultan has a sort of a court of advisors called a majlis, he has the same thing where they basically just sort of sit in court and have all of these different problems that they work on and sort of decide, and then it's a very top-down process. So I wouldn't fool myself into thinking that Donald Trump is not the head of all this. He very much is, and that's his counsel, and they're the ones running the show.
But I thought, Julian, he said that he knows better than the generals, better than anyone. So he said, I heard from them. Is he trying to blame them for this? I don't know.
I don't know. I think he might just be rambling. I mean, I think it's honestly
always a possibility, right?
Yeah,
that I'm black on that one.
Yeah, I don't even know if he thinks that there's any blame to go around, because as Tucker said on his show, they're showing him poll numbers that say that this is 90-10 support. They're just showing him fake stuff, and the reason.
No, I think if Tucker said that, I'm sorry if I heard that. If he did say that, I think it's a lie.
You think that's a lie?
There are some polls showing there's 90-10 support among the Republican base.
Yeah. I think that was what he was referencing.
Okay, yeah. I saw one of them.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's a Fabrizio poll. It's a Fabrizio poll that is sort of the point of the realm there.
Yeah, I think the point is that they're trying to, and it may be a true poll or not true poll, but I think the point is that they're trying to, the administration officials, including Rubio and Witkoff and Kushner, are trying to sell him on the fact that this is a good idea for him. Because if he doesn't think it's a good idea for him, we know that he's super self-consumed and he might back out. But all of those other administration officials are, if history is any indicator, they are specifically interested in what's best for Israel. I mean, when Marco Rubio was running for president in 2016, there are emails between Larry Ellison and that came out as a part of the Epstein files, where he's saying, okay, I'm going to go and meet Marco Rubio and I'm going to talk to him and see if he's good. And then he met him and he said, okay, yeah, he's on our side. And Larry Ellison, the single largest donor of the IDF, poured $5 million behind Marco Rubio into a super PAC, a dark money super PAC. So
I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
I mean,
I was just going to say, I mean, these people have clear interests. They have their entire career. There's special interest influence involved in the formation of those opinions that happened decades ago. And the neocons are running the government. And I think that's why you see some of the isolationist Republicans like Fuentes, and I guess increasingly Tucker has moved to that side of the party coming out of this.
You might, I think we should not underestimate the value of belief. That is one of the interesting things that Seth Dillon talked about is, what is this? The Temple Mount and all this stuff. There is a belief with Donald Trump in Israel. He's going to go down, and he said it in 2015, 2016, 2020, and 2024. He was going to be the most pro-Israel president ever. This is what he believes. I'm not disputing that he has gotten lots of money from the Israel lobby. I know some people hate it, so
the Adelsons are his biggest donor. I mean,
correct. I'm not disputing any of that, but I'm saying for Donald Trump, like, this is a core belief for him. I haven't been able to ask him this question. I assume in the back of his mind is the pull of history, and he probably sees himself in almost those historical, perhaps even biblical terms. So don't underestimate that as being a motivating factor. You did ask, Don, where do we go from here? Cuba.
That's what Cuba's next.
I have is, does Iran become such a mess that it clouds the United States' ability to effectuate this last strike against leftism in the hemisphere? And if the answer to that is no, if it hasn't caused too much of a problem, we're gonna do some sort of Cuba action. I'm not sure what it looks like, though.
Well, you were saying that Israel was said he was going to be the most pro-Israel president, and does he really care about Israel? I think Donald Trump, I think, cares about Adelson and Ellison's money more than he cares about anything. And so, whether he is pro-Israel or not. Yeah. And so here's the thing, too. I am stunned, especially over the last couple of months, that the Democrats have been called anti-Israel when you hear all of these things from Tucker Carlson to Matt Walsh to Megyn Kelly to Marjorie Taylor Greene and all these folks on the right saying, you know what, we're tired of fighting Israel's war. We're tired of funding them. I don't get any anti-Israel. I don't hear anybody saying anti-Semitism for the right, but they do it all the time for the left. And speaking of money, I think the most important thing for us is that if it hits the economy here, especially the gas prices, you saw that gentleman saying, how are we going to fight for them, America first, when they're not fighting for us? Gas prices have surged a national average of approximately $3.48 per gallon as of March 9th, driven by conflict in the Middle East. This represents a sharp recent increase of about 48 cents from the previous week. In New York, the average has risen to around $3.40 per gallon. National average is $3.48. New York State is $3.40. LA County average is $5.22 a gallon. The weekly trend, prices have risen sharply with a 48-cent increase in 1 week nationally. And that's because of and look, as you guys know, I won't belabor it. I'll let you go. We're running out of reserve space in the Middle East for oil. And so that is, they're topping off is what they're calling it. And so if they stop or slow production in order to crank it back up, that's going to be problematic. And so, if this goes on any longer, this is going to have long-term ramifications for the price of oil and the price of fuel. He's lucky that this has not happened in the middle of winter. I mean, we're on the edge of winter right now. But imagine if there's like a huge snowstorm and people start, you know what I mean? And Lord. We'll see. Thank you, gentlemen. Any final words? Any last words? Thanks for dressing up, Mark. I appreciate it.
I was writing and we got a good story for tomorrow. I don't want to jinx myself.
I'm wearing a T-shirt too. Yeah. The next time, if you get a T-shirt though, it should at least say Lemon Nation.
It's an undershirt. As I said, hopefully we got a good story for tomorrow. So maybe I'll come back on tomorrow and talk to you about it.
We thought you were just trying to be cool, hey, look how sexy I am in a white T-shirt, you're
thank you for calling me sexy. I will come on anytime I get any compliment.
No, I said trying to be, Mark. Don't get carried away.
Hey, dude, I will try hard. So, all right, I'll see you guys.
Go ahead. See you, Mark. Thank you. What'd you say, Julian?
Thank you.
And if I were trying to be cool, I'd wear my Lemon Nation shirt.
That's right.
There you go. You have one, right?
No, not
I'm
yet.
sure. All right, we'll get one. If
No,
you wear it, if you wear it, we'll put you back on. Thank
It's
you,
independent
Julian.
media.
I
I'll
appreciate it.
contribute myself and get one.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you,
Take
Prem.
care.
We'll see you all soon. Okay,
right,
if you guys want to know anything about the Don Lemon Show, all you have to do is go to donlemon.com and check the top of donlemon.com. That's our DL and DL. That's our shows. You got to go April 3rd, Raleigh, April 4th, Cleveland, April 17th, Boston, April 18th, Tysons, Virginia. It's going to be great. The promoter's all excited about it, saying, hey, the tickets are selling. Tell the folks to buy them now, especially your friends, the real core Lemonheads, or they're going to run out. And so also, I want to tell you about this. If you go down to the bottom of donlemon.com, or at least scroll down to donlemon.com, and you click the watch button right there, that is how you can become a member and you can subscribe. Okay. And also, so if you are a member, you can gift memberships. Also, if you're on the Twitch, I see you guys out there on the Twitch. Someone said, take care, Lemon, on the Twitch. Who do we have? Bobby is on the Twitch. There's Bobby. Let's put Bobby up. Take care, Lemon, Twitchers. Have a great rest of the day and see you tomorrow. If you go back to donlemon.com and go on to the Twitch, you will see it's the one that looks like the quotation mark. There you go. And so we love having our Lemonheads over on Twitch. They're the best. That chat is probably the most rambunctious chat. We had to get some moderators in there because people were going nuts. We love it. We love it if you agree or disagree, but we just don't love trolls that we don't like racist trolls calling people names, that kind of thing. But if you disagree, you're more than welcome to join the chat. So thank you, Twitch. And then also at the bottom is our Substack, and our Substack, very robust audience there on Substack as well. So hello, Substackers, Lemonheads over on the Substack. If you click that, you can see how to join us on Substack as well. Okay, so our merch store is there as well. You can get this t-shirt and others that we were just discussing. And speaking of memberships, we're about to have our members only. We're going to have a members only and a Legends membership tonight. And that's going to happen right as soon as I hang up. No, you hang up. No, you hang up. No, you hang up. As soon as I hang up from this, we're going to have our members only membership. And so if you're at a certain tier of our membership here on the Don Lemon Show, you get to do that with us. And those are I think they're the more interesting and more intimate conversations that we have. And people are a lot more candid because they feel like, we're doing something and the door's locked and everybody's chatting and we're playing cards and drinking beer. And so that's what's happening. So if you're at a certain tier of membership, you get to be part of that. So go and join over on the YouTube. And then we have some special programming for our Twitchers and also for our Substackers. Okay. So be informed without being inundated until I see you back here tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern time for the Don Lemon Show on Don Lemon Channel on Hot Topics. Turn the TV off. We'll see you on the private stream in minutes. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a show. We're live every weekday at 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern time with new clips dropping at 2 p. and 8 p. And if you want even more Don Lemon Show content, join the Lemon community. Members get exclusive posts, behind-the-scenes videos, and live chats just for you. So hit the join button or visit our channel page to sign up. Thanks again for all your love and your support, and I'll see you next time.